I'm on my way home, sweet home. Tonight, tonight, I'm on my way. I'm on my way home, sweet home.
We'll get to Bickmores. Okay. This is Marty's Gang, Musically Incorrect. We're going to do top 5 albums from 5 of our favorite bands. And tonight's first episode will be the Bad Boys from LA, Cod Pieces, Tight Leather, and a whole lot of Sunset Boulevard rock and roll. Motley Crue.
Nice.
All
Okay.
right. So, do you want to explain the format, Otto? Just so.
Yeah, it's funny. As soon as you said codpiece, I just pictured Blackie Lawless.
So did I, and I actually was
Yeah.
misremembering that. It was.
Anyways,
I know Tommy had some gitch down there that was pretty heavy duty, but the cod piece was definitely Blackie.
That's true. We're going to list our 5 favorite Motley Crue albums, starting from 5 down to 1. Everyone will take a turn, and I'm sure everyone will jump in with comments. And JT, we're going to start with you.
All
right now.
Okay.
Number 5.
So out of all the bands we're going to cover, Crue's the one I listened to the deep tracks the least of. So I had to kind of go through some stuff, figure out a few more things from the Motley Crue track. And what's interesting I found on the Crue stuff was how controversial the self-titled album was with John Corabi. That's his name?
Yep.
Right. So a lot of people really hate that album. Vince has claimed he's never heard it, and a lot of people think it's one of their best. So that was the one surprise I found in the whole thing. It only plays into one other ratings, but for me, Too Fast for Love definitely is number 5. Still like the raw energy on it. A little glammy, but it's still more edgy Crue. It's like that dirty. There's still some punk on Sunset Boulevard on those first days. They were outsiders, even though they looked like they were kind of made up. But that was the style in the days. But I still really like a lot. I love the production on that album with that garbage can compressed guitar sound, where it sounds like Mick has a aluminum garbage can around his amp. But I still like it. It's got a lot of charm.
Number 5, eh? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Jobber, what do you got?
Number 5. Where am I? Theater of Pain.
Okay.
I like Smoking in the Boys' Room. It's always a decent one, even though they didn't write it. I'd say Raise Your Hands got that Sammy Hagar solo feel to it. Although most of the songs seem to come across as, to me anyway, B-side, like Gene Simmons B-side filler tracks, so it doesn't really resonate.
God.
Okay, I like it.
And it's so glammy too. It's like,
yeah. Hops.
Yeah, I'm actually totally with Jobber on this. Theater was really when I got into Crue, but it was not my favorite Crue album. It does have a few good songs. I'm not huge on covers, but Home Sweet Home's a great song. Theater Pain for me is not their best work. I like their raw stuff. When JT named Too Fast for Love, that's actually one of my favorites. So I'm like, oh shit. But it's a little more polished, and it's of all the main Crue albums, it's not one of my favorites. And we won't even talk about John Corabi in this because that's not making any list of mine. No offense.
The Carnival of Souls rears its head again.
So
here's what I would say. Do you remember when Skid Row came out with an amazing debut album, and then they had Slave to the Grind? The John Corabi album is Slave to the Grind for me.
No.
Controversial.
No. Subhuman
Very
Race.
Controversial.
Subhuman Race, maybe, but no, Slave was a great album, dude.
It's not.
It's not the debut. No.
But that's just
okay. So Theater Pain is your 5? Yeah. I agree with both you guys. Theater was my number 5. So much filler on that album. I mean, Home Sweet Home is one of my favorite songs by them. Maybe my favorite song by them. Tonight We Need a Lover. I thought it was a fantastic tune, and Louder Than Hell. But I mean, and Smoke in the Boys Room is not bad, but other than that, yeah, it's I have it on vinyl, and I never bothered to get it on CD, which kind of says something.
Yeah,
But
that you're not gonna do multiple listenings.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, what's
Although
your
it's,
number
I
four,
was gonna say, I was
JT?
gonna say the Home Sweet Home is still like one of those big crowd-pleasing tracks that they play live, which
Yeah, and also featured on Hot Tub Time Machine.
Really? All right.
okay, nice.
Yeah, it's when Lou's trying to kill himself. He's in the car and he's trying to kill himself and he's just cranking Home Sweet Home. Anyways, okay,
Wow.
yeah.
Spasiba, Chernobyl.
What?
Thank you, Chernobyl.
Okay, what's your number four?
All right, number four. Kind of went back and forth on these. Definitely remember thinking Crew was done, and I was like, yeah, I don't have to hear about them anymore. And then I can remember being at Polo Park, which is our big mall in West Winnipeg, and my boss, my buddy Chris, comes up and he goes, "Did you hear the new Crew?" And I'm like, yeah, "I'm sure it's some glam garbage." And he goes, "Listen to this riff." And when I heard the riff for Kickstart My Heart, I was like, "All right, I really like this," and probably, yeah, like that's what I wanted at that time was that type of really driving heavy. It was Motley Crue at their, to me, their heaviest and best sounding was the Dr. Feelgood album.
Okay, yeah, Jobber,
Number
number
four,
four. Yeah,
yeah, Girls, Girls, Girls. And it's funny because the title track is like pure Motley Crue. Like I still like listening to that song. And Mick's tone on that is just incredible.
yeah.
I really do. Mick is very underrated, especially for his tone, I think. Um, Bad Boy Boogie is kind of like a weak rip off of Smoke in the Boys Room. And there's really nothing that remarkable. Jailhouse Rock is one of the worst cover songs
Oh,
I've ever heard.
horrible, horrible. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Reverting to covers of that from that era is always a weak play.
Pops, what's your number four, buddy?
Try not to be swayed by you guys. Too Fast for Love, probably. Still love the album, but I think like the two albums you guys were just talking about are up there for me. But Too Fast for Love is a little rawer. It's you know, it took a while for me to get into that album, not gonna lie. Because I did something weird. Like I kind of got into the Home Sweet Home album. What was that album called again? Sorry.
Theater Pain.
Into theater before I got really into the first album. So
Right.
you know what I mean? So like for me, Crew was hitting their stride. The two albums you guys are just referring to, that was kind of when I was all in. So it was kind of like a slow roll for me. So Too Fast for Love would be number four for me, Bill or Otto.
Okay. I'm gonna agree with Jobber. Girls, 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 my number four. Again, I mean, Wild Side, it's brilliant. Girls, Girls, Girls is good. You're All I Need. Awesome ballad, man. And yeah, kind of one of my guilty pleasures is Nona. I, I like it. But to me, yeah, it's just a lot of filler. I have it on cassette and only on cassette. So again, that kind of tells you something. So yeah, I'll put that on my number four. All right, JT, you're number three.
I went back and forth between Feel Good and Girls, 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 and the reason I chose Girls, Girls, Girls at three, I'm trying to go out of those two albums if they're equal in my mind, or close to equal, which is more Crew. I mean, classic. What is sleazy Sunset Boulevard Crew? And Girls, Girls, Girls more to me. And Wild Side, to me is probably their best song. So I'm gonna have to go with that. And like you said, Girls, Girls, Girls it's kind of stupid, and there's a weird modulation that Vince can't really do. But it's a guilty pleasure. I like it. It to me that is sleazy Crew. So that's three.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. Jobber.
My number three is Too Fast for Love. I think it has less filler than some of the other albums. I love the fact that it was right there. That's probably as raw as Cute Crew would ever get. The album cover makes a statement. Just wish I could unsee it.
Not like he's wearing a Speedo, dude.
Oh. Well, I mean, they should do it before, like they should do a then and now
Yeah,
photo of that.
that'll stop all record sales instantly.
Like Live Wire is a good song. Total Motley Crue Attitude.
Great song.
Come On and Dance is great. Love the Cowbell, sort of the AC/DC style verse. And Too Fast is still played in their set. It's still, so that album still has a place in
Definitely.
their live set at this point. So yeah, no, it's
Mhm.
fairly, if you're gonna choose at least one Crew album to listen to, that's definitely one I would recommend.
Okay. Hops, number 3.
So my number 3 would be Girls, 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 with the caveat that Wild Side is one of my favorite songs of any band, not just Motley Crue. The one thing I would say about that album is it was it's like it's a snapshot in time. It's a strip clubs were everywhere, and rock and roll bands were. It was a gong show, right? And they the debauchery better than any band I could think of for some reason in that era. It was just all LA. It was sleazy. It was,
Yeah, totally.
but the music was, and like I think sometimes it gets overlooked. Do you know what I mean? Like what Wild Side, like that song, I cranked it this morning. It was the first thing I listened to when I got up, and I just it gets me going, gets me amped up. So saying that's my number 3. Girls, Girls.
Okay. My number 3, I'm going to go with Feel Good. Yeah, very polished. Yeah, they were sober. Don't Go Away Mad, Just Go Away. Freaking love that song. So good. I know if Rock was here, he would be so pissed that I would say I really like Time for Change. And I mean, Kickstart My Heart, Dr. Feelgood, let's see, Without You. I don't know, it's just such a solid album. It's got a cool cover. It's just everything about that album. It's just like a really cool vibe. Definitely one of the best from '89. So yeah, I put that as my number 3.
All
JT,
right.
number 2.
All right, here comes the fight. Yeah, it's a self-titled album for sure.
Really? Wow.
And I mean,
Nice.
the first time I actually heard it, I think was probably at Rocks at some point. One of the evenings I was there in the Okanagan, and yeah, so maybe they went a little grungy, but like the playing's incredible. I really think when that album, when I listen back to it now, Mick was being held back. I don't know if it was Nicky or the record company or whatever, but Mick was being held back from really doing some unique things that were bigger on his palette in terms of what he could do. He was just the Motley Crue guitar player, and he was never the central figure, even though I think, like he's the guitar player. He's got a huge role to play in it. It was his band before any of the rest of them were in it. But just the guitar riffs, the execution, Karabi's voice to me, it's even though it's not Motley Crue, it's still
Mhm.
Crue-esque, and the execution on it. And I to me, I love the Soundgarden style production. Like I'm always gonna love that sound, like the really wide out there, and there's very little. Like it's, I can listen to the whole thing 3 or 4 times over and over, and I may not really click onto one song, but I like the entire album. So I don't like one entire album by Motley Crue except this album. And it does. Is it got Wild Side on it? Does it have Live Wire on it? No, it doesn't have the hits. But from back to front, they created an entirely consistent album at the end of their career when basically no one wanted to hear what they were doing. And I got to give them credit. It's a solid piece of music, and for me personally, it's closer to what I like more than kind of classic Crew.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Hooligans Holiday, and Drift Away is a really cool ending track. Misunderstood. It probably would have been about 6th on my list, though. But
Right.
yeah, interesting. Yeah, Jobber,
Number
number
2,
number 2.
Shout at the Devil. And I emphasize the preposition at here because remember my dad looking at that album and going,
Yeah.
seeing the pentagrams, and he's getting
Yeah.
all kind of perturbed about it. And I had to emphasize, no, it's a shout at the devil, not with or for the devil.
But
Oh,
See,
yeah.
turns out
we're against that whole devil thing.
it
So
turns
we're
out
not on board with that.
it turns out decades later your dad was right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Mick was, yeah, pure evil.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the title track, Vince sounds amazing on that particular song, and it just that is one of those quintessential headbanging songs. Like, just has an Anthony chorus to it. Looks a kill, and I still listen to that from time to time. Like after I finish a run, I've got my headphones. I'll let that run, and it still sounds great live, even though it's probably taped.
Yeah, probably.
It's like the mini Vanelli version of that. Helter Skelter is a good example of a good Motley Crue cover.
Yeah.
It's a little
Yeah.
close. It's a
It
little
is.
too close to the original in terms of tempo and feel, but it
You,
does have that. They gave it that '80s rock sound to it, which is
you know
quite
who has the
cool.
best version of that song? Aerosmith. Aerosmith did a
Ah,
way better.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely no restraint on Steven Tyler on that one.
No. All right. Hops, what's your number two, bud?
I'm with Jobber on this. Shout the Devil. Great album. I don't know if you were at this show, Otto, but they played here in our little
Yep.
small 54.
Yeah, I was there. Yep.
It was a good show. And it was kind of when Vince was starting to, they were kind of phasing out. He was starting to lose it a little bit.
Yeah.
We shared, full disclosure, I forget who sent, I think Jobber sent that email, YouTube link to some of Vince Neil's kind of like just ramblings.
Vocals.
I
Well, maybe that's maybe if they want to push back on the whole rumor that they're taping their stuff. I mean, would Vince really tape that?
No, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, when I saw Me Rock and Bobby went down, we saw Crew in '89 on the Feel Good tour. It was amazing, absolutely amazing. So even that show that Hops is talking about was pretty lame compared to '89 Crew.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah, but
Definitely.
yeah,
like it was G. Tommy had the kit turning, like
yeah,
Yeah. The old Big Show.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And Tesla opened. It was pretty awesome.
Hmm.
My number two, I am going with Too Fast for Love. I actually got that album when it first came out, so they weren't
Wow.
anybody. They weren't anybody yet, and the album I had featured "Stick to Your Guns" because it had 10 songs on it. Yeah, no, I just
Where did you even get it?
well, it's actually funny. A friend of my brother's actually worked for, as Mark would know, a radio station. And so they would give albums out to just
Promo
kind of
record.
try.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this guy brought over a shit ton of albums to my brother, and he was not really into I mean, he was into it, but not like I was. And so
Yeah.
these albums ended up, with me. And man,
Right.
I was just spinning all
That's
these.
amazing because we never Motley Crue didn't get played on our AOR station, which us
Yeah.
92 and C Fox were pretty much playing Shout at the Devil the instant it came out, but that was 18 months
Yeah.
after Too Fast for Love, and I'd never heard of them. Like they
Right.
they just came out of nowhere. So that album was never played on AOR radio. That first Crew album was never played on AOR radio in Canada, I don't think.
Yeah, so I mean, I immediately liked it. I like the raw sound. I really love the song "Starry Eyes." Merry-Go-Round, repetitive, but I really like it. On with the show, obviously. Public Enemy #1, but yeah, no, it's that still stands out as probably my second favorite Crew album. So we move on to number ones. JT.
So I guess the choice I would have is theater or Shout. So I don't like anything about theater, so it's Shout.
Can't even think about theater.
No, I
Okay.
don't. I've never actually when it came out, I got pretty mad at them. Like in
Yeah.
my mind, there's nothing that I really liked. It was the wrong way that I felt heavy metal should be going. And but when Shout came out, it was so catchy. There was so many good songs on it. It the way it was designed, like Jobber was saying about his dad, who was gonna put certain kids, into their place about this is what Satanism is and it can hurt you. Please stop. Which was good advice, by the way. But uh, yeah, Crew is more about abusing themselves than anybody else. But I just everything about I can listen to that whole album and I don't like every song a lot, but when I just hear that opening riff, especially at Shout at the Devil or Looks to Kill, it's like that to me is pretty much one of the top five definitive albums of 1980s metal. I'd say so. That's why I would choose it.
All right. Jobber.
Dr. Feelgood. Especially the Little Mountain Sound
Right,
era.
Vancouver.
So it's got that big drum sound that's just amazing. It's funny you mentioned the tour, that Dr. Feelgood was a really good tour, right, Bill?
Yep.
But
Yeah.
they must have obviously successive tours made them a lot more effective, because apparently they were one of the opening bands in the US Festival. And apparently they
Huh.
did such a horrible job because either they were inebriated or really nervous. Apparently, uh, what was it? Tommy Lee walked off stage and broke into tears because he was so distraught by how horrible they were. But apparently, just
Wow.
their pure attitude, the audience loved it, and it really helped
Huh.
propel them. So that's an interesting story to see that sometimes it's not so much the performance, it's how
Mhm.
you come across to the audience.
The
But
image.
Yep.
The image.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think title track's probably my favorite Crew song. It's got that. It's about as Crew as looks to kill, or girls, girls, girls. Love the lyrics, even though in that video clip I shared, not even Vince knows those lyrics anymore. Rattlesnake Shake is a great song, pure boogie fun. Kickstart My Heart, of course, great chorus. Let's see, Without You is, yeah, I like it's kind of that edgy ballady feel to it, which is kind of cool. And yeah, just overall, less filler than the other albums. So
Mhm. All right. Okay. Hops.
Yeah, I'm totally with Jobber on this one. Like Dr. Feelgood album. So I was living in Vancouver at that time. Little Mountain Sound was like that was where it was at. And funny story, my very first tattoo was from he was working on the guys from Motley Crue, and his name was Vince. It was the Flying Dutchman tattoo in New Westminster, and all the guys from Little Mountain Sound would go out there and get their ink done. So I know he's passed away, R.I.P. Vince, but he did the very first one, and I went there specifically because Tommy Lee and Vince would go there.
Wow.
Great album. It's a little bit more produced than a lot of their albums. It reminds me of like an era when Def Leppard was kind of dialing up their production. Poison was kind of getting a little more clean. They lost some rawness. So
Yeah.
depending on what you like, some people don't like, some people love the rawness of it. Some people like the overproduced of it. For me, this is kind of their sweet spot. So this is my favorite Crew album for sure.
Nice. Nice. Good. I'm gonna go with Shout at the Devil as my number one. Yeah, aside from the not necessary instrumental God Bless Children of the Beast, it's a great album. Side two, fantastic. Too Young to Fall in Love, 10 Seconds to Love, Danger. I mean, it's a great album. Definitely my number one. I'll be honest with you though. As good as that album is, it would not crack my top 50 of all time. But
Really?
I'm just gonna finish with that.
All right.
So I actually kept track of where we all were. And I often watch a website or look at a website, Ultimate Classic Rock, and I looked at their top five. They had Theater Pain at 5, Girls, Girls, Girls number 4, Feel Good 3, Too Fast for Love 2, and Shout at the Devil 1. That's what they had. When I tallied all ours, we agree with Ultimate Classic Rock, and Shout at the Devil would be Motley Crue's best album.